So many notes on this Coke.
Are you so excited about this? Oh my gosh. I am so excited about Ilse. You don't even know. Ugh. She's just such a piece of shit.
Yeah, I do. I don't know. I feel like it's not uncommon for people to like really be interested in World War II. Like it's very common for people to find that interesting. But like the Nazis are, I don't know, fascinating to me in a very negative way, but fascinating nonetheless.
Yeah.
So anywho, hello.
God, are we excited to be here today?
I don't know what happened. Yeah, I am excited. Hello, hi, hello, everyone. Welcome to Well-Behaved Women. We are putting our voices into your earballs. I am Kyria.
I am Lauren.
I don't know what's happening to me. I forgot.
And together we are the team. I don't know. We should have a team name.
I don't know what came over me. I forgot how to like introduce our podcast. So hello, welcome, everybody.
I'm actually thinking about taking a few of the bloopers that I've got for like the episodes that we have passed and putting together like a little intro thing.
Oh, that would be fun.
I don't know how to do that yet, but I feel like I have enough material to where I can at least just like, make like a cut track of every time we snort as an opening or something.
Oh, that would be fun.
Where just every little cut of every snort. Something like.
Do you know if there's a way to like mute my input on Audition? Because like I could mute my microphone on Zoom. Yeah. But that doesn't do anything for Audition.
Yes,
right?
You can. The M button that's to the left.
Yeah. Okay.
You can press that for a moment.
Oh, cool.
But don't forget to unmute yourself afterwards.
Right, of course. Yes. I can see where my voice is. So I will.
Right. And I kind of like watching it. I'm like, ooh.
Yeah. Me too. Yeah. I can see when I get my big laughs are very funny.
Yes. When you giggle, like when we have a good set of laughs and our laughs kind of get in synchronicity, like we harmonize, and so it goes ha 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 ha, and it goes and goes and goes. It's great.
We're making art here.
We are. I can't draw for shit, but boy, can I craft the hell out of something, and can I do my research.
I have never been a drawing person. Never has been a skill that I possessed.
Me neither. I've tried, but I am just not good.
I told Donald that when like the time comes around that I have money to spend on like a, I don't know, weekly hobby, that I want to like take voice lessons.
Same. I really like singing, and
I grew up in choir, and I love,
but I'm also like terrified of singing in front of other people. Because like the second somebody else hears me, all of a sudden I go all crackly and. Like
I don't think I would ever want to like do voice lessons in anticipation of like a recital or anything.
No, I just don't want to be so scared to like sing in front of another person, and I want to get better control of like my range.
Yeah, but I would enjoy going out occasionally and just like having people at a karaoke bar buy me drinks because they were just so blown away by my abilities or something. Exactly. Like that would make me mad.
Exactly.
That would be cool. But yeah, and I grew up in choir, and I've always loved singing. And I know that I don't have a bad voice. I just totally would love to refine it. Like that would be really fun. You know who I bet had a terrible voice?
Who?
Ilse Koch.
Fuck this bitch. A terrible voice and a sandy dry vagina.
Yes. So that was, in my opinion, one of the smoothest transitions to topic of the week.
Ilse Koch. piece of
So
shit.
we're talking about the Bitch of Buchenwald. Buchenwald?
Buchenwald, yeah.
Great. Okay, that's what I thought.
Or Buchenwald. I think it's Buchenwald.
Bitch of Buchenwald. That bitch. You know the one.
Also known as the Red Witch, the Red Widow, the Butcher, the Witch of Buchenwald.
The Beast of Buchenwald.
The Queen of Buchenwald.
So she's terrible and infamous.
Yes, very infamous.
Infamously behaved women.
Mm-hmm. And just so you know, at any point we are going... This is just huge fucking trigger warning. We're going to go into all of the war and all of the war crimes and all of the ways in which Germany just fucked up so hard, and all of the ways in which you kind of had to be that type of result because of where you lived at that point. I'm not making any excuses. Absolutely a monster. But she was a result of her time in Germany. Right.
And I would say that the worst of the Nazis, like there are people that were, I don't know. This is Jesus Christ.
Like Mengele.
The first country that, like, I'm gonna take a page out of Ben's here. The first country that the Nazis occupied was Germany. And to be high up in the Nazi party, you had to be a shitty person. You just had to be. So, yeah, trigger warning, fair warning here up top. We're talking about Nazis. We will be talking about concentration camps and the beliefs of the Nazis to exterminate the Jews and to do it in some of the cruelest ways possible. So
things are going to get really bad. We're going to hear about a lot of death. We're going to hear a lot about very stupid decisions at many different points in history. We are going to get into Hitler. Just because you can't have the story of Ilse without Hitler. Like she wouldn't be her if not for him. So we have to get into that. So just big trigger warning up top, and but we're excited to talk about it. There's a lot of good research here, and boy, do we have a story for you this evening. So you ready to go?
Yeah.
On this year in history, the Ecuador-Colombia earthquake, hitting a magnitude of 8.8, causes 500 deaths in the area.
Holy shit.
Mount Vesuvius erupts, devastating the nearby town of Naples.
Okay.
The San Francisco earthquake happens, killing 3,000 and leaving 300,000 homeless. The first Victrola phonograph record player is manufactured.
Mm-hmm.
And the Red Witch of Buchenwald was born, and the world was far, far worse for it. Margaret Ilse Koch was born on September 22nd to a former military commander turned factory foreman. She was in a working-class family. By all accounts, she was a happy little girl, very polite and not noteworthy. What is noteworthy, however, is the world around Ilse as she grew up. And this is very important because it will shape everything about her life in the future. When World War I started in 1914, she is an 8-year-old girl.
Mm-hmm.
And the national sentiment in Germany is that it was basically like their time in the sun. It's like, this is our time to shine. If we're going to make this very, in their minds, very brave political military move, we're going to really go for it. And like German adults were really on board with it. So as a kid, she really didn't have a choice. It was like, what's the propaganda at the time? So
yeah, interestingly, really quickly, I'm so sorry. Yeah. I did not realize that Mount Vesuvius had blown up again.
Again, right?
Because I took Latin for 3 years in high school, and so like I learned all about that Vesuvius, like Pompeii, and yeah. So it just like when you said that up top, I was like, wait a fucking second, we're talking about a Nazi, right? Like my brain just broke for a second because I was like, that happened in BC. I'm so confused. So it's fine. I'm very smart, everyone.
One of my biggest regrets from my college years was that I got married instead of going to Pompeii for a summer?
I was very lucky. I was able to go to Italy and Greece the summer between my junior and senior years of high school. And so,
Well, and when I say Pompeii...
Not an entire summer, but...
When I say Pompeii, I don't mean, like, visiting Pompeii. I mean, like, working in Pompeii.
Right, because you did archaeological...
It was... it was like the
that.
chance of a lifetime, and I was so stupid, and I didn't take it because I was in a very bad place mentally and emotionally, and people make mistakes when that happens. So
yeah, absolutely.
That's one of mine.
There are stories aplenty of women who chose a man over a career, and
no, that never happens.
It's because we're told to.
No, it's not because I'm supposed to have a husband and kids and multiply and replenish the earth.
Actually, that is your job, so...
Okay, actually told me that was my job.
Oh, sorry, I was joking, obviously.
No, that's, no, it's a very funny joke, and it's funny because it's funny that he used such a stupid fucking line to actually make his point. Anyway.
So, World War One.
So, okay, for this, to understand this, and I'm just going to also give you kind of a warning up front. A lot of what we're going to talk about tonight is not directly like, on Monday, Ilse did this, and on Tuesday, Ilse did that. This is, what was the world around her like, and so what was she, by association and by necessity of her location, what was she involved in, and how was she connected to this? A lot of what
and
we
what
know,
was she taught at a very young age?
What was she taught at a very young age? What was the world that she grew up in, and what was she a part of? Where are the places that her name is conspicuously not in written records because they didn't keep written records?
Mm-hmm.
So we'll go into all of that. But because we're going to be talking a lot about situations that aren't directly Ilse did this and Ilse did that. This is what was happening. So we're going to kind of go into, to start, World War I. We talked about that a little bit last episode, and kind of the causes. We've got Franz Ferdinand, but we need to actually kind of go back a little bit further and talk about what was happening in the surrounding area and why the assassination blew up Europe.
Yes.
So let's set the scene. Germany has slowly been gaining bits and pieces of surrounding lands for a while. They have all of these treaties in place with the surrounding countries, but they really just wanted land from Russia, like more land. They wanted this big chunk, and they couldn't justify going to war for it themselves. And then along came a little group called Young Bosnia and laid down the perfect opportunity for them to get what they wanted. At the time, a ton of the Eastern European countries were united under the flag of Austria-Hungary.
Mm-hmm.
To the north of Austria-Hungary, you have Germany. To the east, Russia. To the west, Italy and France. Just south of this nation, there is Montenegro, Serbia, and Romania. So Austria-Hungary itself is home to Czechs, Serbs, Italians, Romanians, Ukrainians, Poles, Slovaks, Slovenians, and the Croats.
Holy moly.
In short, it's a mess. Like, everyone was there.
Yeah.
This nation was under imperial rule, and the people in their inner circle had the obligation to go and visit all these areas to understand the people that you rule over. Like, what are the actual problems in your area and what is affecting you? They're your local politicians, basically.
Sure. So which empire? It was under imperial rule. Which empire? I'm so sorry. World War I is not my war.
Austria-Hungarian Empire.
Oh, okay.
Right. So, because Franz Ferdinand was the Archduke of Austria.
Yeah.
So, like, he was in a ruling class. Like, I think he was, like, going to be the next ruler or something.
Mm-hmm.
The Young Bosnia group was a group of Serb anarchists. They didn't like being ruled over and not being a part of their homeland. When Archduke When Archduke Franz Ferdinand of Austria came through Sarajevo, this group assassinated him and his wife while they drove through the city. It was entirely by chance the car detoured along one specific road, and that one defeated conspirator happened to be sulking about the failed assassination attempt on that same street at that same time. It was just
Holy
so
shit.
fucking simple, but it struck a huge chord around Europe. Oh, you didn't know that?
No, I didn't know it was like a whoopsie doodle. Not a whoopsie doodle, but like...
They had the plans. So they had the plans from the drivers. I don't remember exactly how they got it. And again, I can't highly recommend enough Dan Carlin's Hardcore History, but I will
do it. I will do it. I know you're not specifically recommending it to me, but everyone, also our listeners.
Anyone that listens to this.
I will do it. It's just that my whole life, World War I has just not been my war. I'm just like, it's the first one, whatever.
I didn't think about it at all until I listened to that and realized how like involved it is. And as I was researching Emma, I just kept thinking, there's just so much more. Like there's so much about it that it's so complicated. It's insane.
Yeah, like for some reason, I think World War II appeals more to me because it's not easy to understand, but it's very evidently like Nazis bad guy, and so like it's a beautiful, easy narrative to digest. Nazis bad guy, and then everything else kind of flows off of that. Whereas World War I is so much more. Anyways, go on.
And okay, so entirely by chance, so. This group had plans from one of the drivers or like one of that group. And so they had this schedule. And so they went to a certain set of intersections to watch the wagon come in and through the city. But then in celebration of this person coming through the city, the streets were very crowded and something ended up happening so that the last second... the carriage had to turn like left, like 2 blocks before where they were supposed to. And that was, and so it completely detoured and, it was a very slow procession. So basically these guys heard about it and they were like, oh, fuck, goddamn. All right, let's go have a drink. Let's figure out how to recoup this. And this guy's like, nah, man, I'm just going to go and sit by myself and think for a little while. And so he's off in a completely different part of town sulking about the fact that their whole plan has like fallen through, and along comes the carriage.
Wow.
Yeah.
And he just like happened to have a gun on him or something?
Yeah, because he was part of the assassination plan.
Okay, so he was originally gonna assassinate him anyways.
Yes, that was the plan. Okay. But the fact that he happened to be in the different part of town after the detour at the right moment, like it was just purely by coincidence, because the guy was pouting.
Wow, that's crazy.
One of the biggest chords struck was in the nation of Germany, who saw this and kind of stood behind Austria-Hungary and basically said, if you want to go to war against Serbia and the Serbs in Austria-Hungary, go ahead. Mm-hmm. You do that. We got your back, and hey, don't worry. When these other countries get mad at you for retaliating against an entire nation for the actions of a few,
right,
we're going to fight them off for you. So, like, we'll kind of guard you. You can go and beat up on this little guy, and we'll make sure that nobody else comes up and beats on you. And it was the opportunity that Germany needed to take that piece of land that they'd been wanting to try and get.
Right. So it was an opportunity for Germany to kind of like go after Russia without specifically declaring war on Russia yet.
Right.
Okay.
So this guy, the guy responsible for this is a man named Bethmann Hollweg.
Okay.
Quote, following the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand in Sarajevo on 28 June 1914, Bethmann Hollweg and his foreign minister, Gottlieb von Jagow, were instrumental in assuring Austria-Hungary of Germany's unconditional support, regardless of Austria's actions against Serbia. While Gray was suggesting a mediation between Austria-Hungary and Serbia, Bethmann Hollweg wanted Austria-Hungary to attack Serbia, and so he tampered with the British message and deleted the last line of the letter. Quote, "Also, the whole world here is convinced, and I hear from my colleagues, that the key to this situation lies in Berlin, and that if Berlin seriously wants peace, it will prevent Vienna from following a foolhardy policy."
Oh.
That was taken out.
I feel like that's an important line.
Yep. When the Austria-Hungarian ultimatum was presented to Serbia, Kaiser Wilhelm II ended his vacation and hurried back to Berlin.
Wow.
When Wilhelm arrived at Potsdam station in late evening of July 26th, he was met by a pale, agitated, and somewhat fearful chancellor. Bethmann Hollweg's apprehension stemmed not from the dangers of the looming war, but rather from the fear of the Kaiser's wrath when the extent of his deceptions were revealed. The Kaiser's first words to him were suitably brusque. How did it all happen? Rather than attempt to explain, the chancellor offered his resignation by way of apology. Wilhelm refused to accept it, muttering furiously, "You've made this stew, now you're going to eat it."
Ooh.
Yeah. Bethmann Hollweg, much of whose foreign policy before the war had been guided by his desire to establish good relations with Britain, was particularly upset by Britain's declaration of war following the German violation of Belgium's neutrality during its invasion of France. I mean, it's been kind of like testing its waters for a while. He reportedly asked the departing British ambassador, Edward Goshen, how Britain could go to war over a scrap of paper, which was the 1839 Treaty of London guaranteeing Belgium's neutrality from international relations.
Right.
War broke out, and quickly Germany decided to go to France by way of Belgium. The situation can best be described by a map of warring neighborhoods. So Street A and Street C are warring. They're they're enemies. And Street B crosses each one and connects the two. And they're peaceful with both sides. Gang from Street C is like, okay, Street B, we're going to peacefully walk through you so we can go beat the shit out of Street A. But Street B gang is like, no, we will tear our street up to keep you from doing that. So they start getting to work on destroying the roads in their street. So Gang C ruthlessly murders the entire street and sets the houses ablaze.
Holy shit.
Yeah. This is how Britain and France entered the war. Britain got pissed at the intense escalation of Germany. So Belgium basically was trying to just basically say, we're doing everything we can to keep the peace, and we're doing everything we can to destroy your paths of transportation.
Right.
So that you cannot get to France by way of us. We will destroy our shit before we let you pass.
Right. And then Germany was like, too bad. We're invading anyways.
Yes, and we'll murder anyone who gets in our way.
Right.
So Britain got pissed. In the beginning of this thing, Ilse's 8 years old and probably hearing a lot of propaganda for the war. But very, very quickly, Germany realizes that their funds for the nation are now being diverted to the war effort. Their country is soon in a state of quote-unquote total war, which means that things are so intense that the priority for food, clothing, everything should be diverted to the military before we can get food to the civilians.
Wow.
Not only that, but everyone is pissed at Germany, so any imports they were relying on from the other surrounding countries are being actively blocked by Allied forces.
Right.
And a major thing of theirs was transport by sea, by lake or ocean or whatever. And the naval ships would quickly cut off their support.
Wow.
This part amuses me in a very, very morbid way. Food planning becomes a big concern. All the food we have as a nation is being sent out to the war, as are many of the farmers that actually tilled that land. We don't have as much food coming in because everyone is mad at us. As this war broke out, food rations came in the form of rationed bread and wildly cut cost of potatoes. They were super, super cheap.
Yeah.
They wanted to make the farmers lose a lot of money in the potatoes, So not only did potatoes stop going to markets, farmers started feeding the pigs with these potatoes. Like, it was cheaper food for their farms. They didn't have to go and get all these scraps other places. They actually had the potatoes, and it was just cheaper.
Right.
So they wrote a series of articles about this.
Mm-hmm.
And the articles grew fervor, and by March of 1915, only months into the war, the order came down from on high, the Schweinemord of 1915. 9 million pigs were to be slaughtered en masse.
The fuck? Why?
Okay. They argued that there were like 20. I think I'm about to explain it.
Oh, okay.
Hold on.
I just like is.
No, I'm going to go into the numbers because it's very funny. So, there was by the time this happened, there were something like 21 million pigs, in Germany. Like, everyone farmed pigs, and so the cost of that was like the most common meat, and so then when farmers stopped selling potatoes to the markets and just started feeding them to their own pigs, they blamed pigs for the lack of potatoes for humans and declared them a strain on resources because pigs and humans have a similar diet.
Yeah, it also said, and also that they were eating grains.
Right. So, like, the things that humans could be eating but, like, wouldn't,
Sure,
were straining human consumption. And so there were too many pigs around, and they wanted to decrease it by almost half because that could control the population of the pigs, and it would put less of a strain on the resources that we have left in the country, right?
I mean, okay, but did every German family get a fucking ham? Like, I don't...
No. So I will tell you. I will tell you what happens. I'm glad you asked.
It's so ridiculous to me.
So, as the potato supply grew worse and bread became more and more limited, because bread is now starting to be rationed as well, these stories just grew and grew. Certain journalists were printing and publishing all sorts of stories about pigs are co-eaters with humans. Co-eaters as in we as humans compete with the same diet as the 27 million pigs that live in the same area. And to solve this problem, we will need to get rid of those pigs. If we don't have as many pigs to feed, we will have more grains for bread and more potatoes for humans and more meat on the shelves because we killed those pigs. So these articles grew fervor, and by March of 1915, we're going to be slaughtered.
It's called Schweinemord.
Schweinemord.
Pig massacre. Insane. This is cartoons. This is a cartoon.
It is a cartoon. It's a real life cartoon. But this was a gigantic mistake. It was like it's like Tom finally like running out onto, off the branch, and he's like running in midair, and he realizes like, oh shit, I don't have a branch underneath me.
The branch is gone now.
The branch is gone. So then, the little cartoon like falling.
That's insane.
So, for one, the government was the one that killed the opportunity to buy the potatoes, but the farmers were being blamed. It didn't make the potato problem go away, and in fact, it made the pork supply and the potato supply even worse. By the time 5 million pigs had been slaughtered in May, they scrapped the program entirely. But it was too late. The damage had already been done. Because of the lack of pork, demand shifted in meats over to beef, which didn't have...
And, sorry, really quickly, I just want to add this, that they also did not take into the account the fact that farmers were using pig manure as fertilizer, so then it, like...
I was literally just going to go into that.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
I was like, this is crazy to me. Like, I know that we're about to talk about a Nazi, like, but I am... currently most blown away by the pig murder, like, and how short-sighted and insane it is.
Yeah, this is one of my favorite, like, When I do research, I find little surprise side stories like that just kind of give you little pieces of context for where we are in the world and like what the world looks like around this person.
Right.
This is one of my favorite stories.
Yeah.
It's the pig massacre of 1915. It's
1915.
great. Because of the lack of pork, demand shifted in meats over to beef, which didn't have a control on its prices yet, so they skyrocketed uncontrollably. Not only that, but it turns out that pigs shit a lot. So when they killed 5 million of them, that's literal tons of manure used for agriculture needs that now aren't available.
We got way less shit.
This led to a decrease in crop yields, and things got so bad that over the next year and a half, famine would run rampant and German civilians would struggle to survive through what would become known as the turnip winter of 1917.
Ugh, yeah. What a terrible winter.
Ilse's now 11, and she is part of a working class family who is now struggling to get any food on the table. She has probably had days and weeks where she is starving. Millions died fighting in this war, but it's estimated that about 500,000 Germans died from famine-related causes. Not directly starvation, but other things that can be deadly when combined with a weakened and starved immunity system.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Immune system. Sorry, I said immunity. We're on fucking Survivor here. You have an immunity system.
I do.
You're safe today.
Oh my god, what is it called when they go to...
I don't know.
Deliberation? There it is. I was like, is it called deliberation?
Something like that.
I don't know. It's fine.
Conditions deteriorated rapidly on the home front with severe food shortages that reported in all urban areas. Mm. The causes involved the transfer of so many farmers and food workers into the military, combined with the overburdened railroad system. Shortages of coal and the British blockade that cut off imports from abroad. Even the army had to cut the rations for soldiers. Morale of both civilians and soldiers continued to sink.
Jesus.
This was just one of many factors that chipped away at German support for the war.
Mm-hmm.
By the time everyone figured out it was a land measuring contest, they had already done pissed off the Americans, who went in swift and hard, bitch slapped the war support right out of them.
Goodbye, war support.
Yep. Germans themselves were increasingly frustrated with the decisions of the rulers, and in the fall of 1918, they revolted against themselves.
Oh, okay.
This final crack in their own ranks brought them down against all the other nations, but also in and of their own government. The imperial leadership of Germany was done, and a republic was instituted. This formation of new government was in the interest of ending the war and setting Germany up with a way to recover. The end of World War I came when Ilse was only 12 or 13, with the signing of the Treaty of Versailles.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what the Treaty of Versailles is?
That was like Germany. So the main thing that I remember is that like the good guys, quote unquote, the not Germany people would only sign if Germany took responsibility. Is that correct? Am I wrong? I'm happy to be wrong. It's fine.
No, you're not really wrong. It has to do with that, yeah.
Okay.
This was a document to put an end to the conflict and forced Germany to basically take all the blame for the war, give all of these pieces of land back, like, you know, a selfish child with so many toys that don't belong to them.
Right.
This is yours. Fine, I'm sorry. Here you go. You can have your little town back.
You can have this. You can have this. Here's this back.
But I want to keep that one. That's got a link.
Well, and then they had to, like, give money back and stuff, too. And, like, they're already broke and shit.
They had to, yeah. So, they had to cut way down on the military, and they had to pay so much money, so much money for the costs of the war. Like, all of these homes that need to be rebuilt, all of this damage to our land, all of those roads in Belgium that got destroyed trying to prevent the Germans from going through, all of that needs to be rebuilt. So they had to pay a shit ton of money. And the government of Germany, you'll recall, is brand spanking new. And the first leader of this republic took a look at the treaty and was like, no, we're not doing this. Nope. He resigned. He literally resigned rather than sign the treaty.
Wow.
So his successor took over and caved to pressure after trying to compromise on a couple points, mainly that Germany take responsibility for the war. When no concessions were allowed and feeling like he had no options, he signed it as it was presented.
Mm-hmm.
The war was over, and now life could resume for the few people that survived the war.
So I'm not saying that, like, I don't know. I just feel like World War II may not have... this is so, like, a simplistic view of, like, World War I. But, like, World War II may not have happened if that first guy, I don't know, pushed harder, or that second guy hadn't caved so soon. I know that, like, the Allies were like, no, we shall not give in. You will sign this exactly as it is.
So you mean like the first guy, if he had worked on it and been like, hey, well, they did try to compromise on it. They tried to they tried to sign it without signing that specific part, which was that Germany needed to take blame for the war.
Right.
And they refused it. They were like, you sign it as is or you don't sign it at all, and we beat the living shit out of you.
Right. And, like, I know, like, and Germany was starving, and there was still, like, blockades and all kinds of stuff, like, preventing them from not starving if they did not sign. And so, I know, but it's just, like, it's hard for me to wrap my head, I guess, around the Allied powers, like, thinking, like, oh, haha, now we've done it. We've done it, and they won't come back again, and they will never be mad about this.
Right.
Like, anywho, go on. Nazis are still bad, but, like, German support for World War II would not have been as high as it was if we had not demoralized Germany so much beyond after World War I.
Yeah, we basically Woodrow Wilson pissed all over them.
Yeah.
Just so much. I think it was Woodrow Wilson.
Yeah.
It was. Okay.
During World War I, yeah.
It was into this world. That I wrote that in a weird way.
That Ilse comes of age.
Basically.
Yeah.
She tried to make it in the real world, and in 1921, she went to school for one of the only careers available to women at the time, which was accounting.
Mm-hmm.
She was 15.
Wow.
We really don't have a lot of details about her day-to-day life again, and you'll hear that there are very little details about the majority of her life, but she was one of millions trying to grow up and survive in a post-war era where not only is the war the fault of her country, but it's also the one that her country lost. One of the popular theories that started going around after the war ended was that the war was not lost on the war grounds, but from the people on the home front. It was called the Dolchstoy-Legende, which is the stab-in-the-back myth.
Oh, okay.
Dolchstoy-Legende. I'm pretty sure that's how you pronounce it. I practiced it. Anyway.
I practiced it.
I practiced it.
Sorry, really quickly. I want to read over this stab-in-the-back myth.
Yes.
Because it just based on the Wikipedia, it is considered an anti-Semitic conspiracy theory. Mm-hmm. It's the belief that the German army did not lose World War I, but it was instead betrayed by civilians on the home front, especially Jews, revolutionary socialists, and other Republican politicians who had overthrown the monarchy in the German Revolution. So, this is not a cute term. This is a very shitty anti-Semitic conspiracy theory, and I did not know that. And I was like, haha, stab in the back myth, like, and then the, like, you know, German pronunciation of it, I was like, hee hee.
No, it's horrible.
But yeah, woo, that is not. It's all bad. Everything's bad.
Yes.
Prepare for me to be squicked out by a lot of this, because I really am, as I think all people should be, but am, like, really bothered by anti-Semitism. And
yeah, and we can take a break when you need to.
At all times, 100% baffled by it. Like,
yes.
I am consistently just, like, baffled by the concept of it.
And we go into that over and over and over again, the idea of anti-Semitism, because in how many of these episodes have we talked about anti-Semitic behaviors and anti-Semitic thought in the general area? And
yeah, it touches so much, and it is...
it's just always been around.
baffling and crazy to me all the time. I will never understand it, and I don't know where it came from.
Yeah. But this was a very popular thing, and everyone knew someone who had died from the war and from the extreme instability of the nation on the home front. So, like, either they had died out in battle or they had died of starvation-related causes or famine-related causes in your area because of the fact that this war was so expensive and just so draining on the entire nation.
Right.
People are just starting to pick up the pieces, and there's this whole depression around the entire country, and she really struggled to find work during that time. In fact, by the time she was 17, the currency of the nation was so useless that housewives used it as kindling for fires. She was an accountant,
Wow.
and they used it for fire kindling.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's wild. So what is this, like the 20s? Like probably mid-20ish?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is at the end, 1921.
Okay. Wow. Elsewhere.
Elsewhere in Germany.
Ooh.
Elsewhere in Germany.
Elsewhere. Accents were not my calling, guys, so.
Now, okay, Ilse, again, fascinating character, but you kind of have to, like, fill in the blanks of her life to understand this. None of the things, though, that happened to her to make her famous would have been possible. None of her funding or housing or lab space, any of this would have been created if not for one man and one political party.
Mm-hmm.
I cannot discuss Ilse fully without going into a lot of detail about Germany. Why did she think the way that she did? How did this party get so popular, and why was it created in the first place?
Right.
So to understand the deep complexities of the Holocaust, you have to get into all the things that combined to allow that to happen. So let's talk about Adolf. I briefly covered him last episode because it started to affect Emma's life, and she was deeply opposed to this type of leadership. But let's talk about how he got to where he ended up. He was a soldier in World War I, and he was deeply disappointed by the Treaty of Versailles. This was supposed to be Germany's time to shine, and instead there was a big black mark on the soul of the nation in the shape of that treaty. After the war ended, he was drawn to a far right-leaning political party, the German Workers' Party, who, guess what, believed fully in Dolchstoßlegende myth and the idea that the fault lived with the Jews and the Marxists in the nation that betrayed the real Germans.
Wow.
The real Germans being the ones that were out fighting. Hitler, unsurprisingly, bought into this myth. Jews and communists had betrayed the country and brought a left-wing government to power that had wanted to throw in the towel. They gave up.
Right.
They signed this thing. They fucked us. They gave up. They didn't even try to fight it. They're angry about it. Surprisingly, his popularity grew. It grew among the surviving members of the old German military, those who felt betrayed by those in their home country that opposed the war, anybody that opposed the war. The DAP opposed them. They started opposing non-nationalist ideals and anyone who was of a lesser race than that of the mighty fatherland. Anyone not within their, you're feeling it, aren't you?
I don't know, man. It's so frustrating and annoying because I want to be like, okay, like these things all came together to create a woman, Ilse, whatever, who also believed this. But it sounds so fucking batshit to me. Like, it just, I feel like I'm sometimes doing a disservice to Jewish people because I truly just get so incredulous about it because I'm like, I don't fucking get it because it does not make sense to me why these people believe these horrible things.
I don't think it makes sense to them either.
I know. But like, yeah, I don't know. It's just very... Go ahead. Sorry. Lauren can see me in the camera, and so she can see my facial expressions as I absorb all of this absolute nonsense.
Which I am fine with. I I want the anger. I'm happy about the anger. That comforts me greatly.
Yeah, it continues, and I will continue to.
I'm not a Nazi, basically. Just we're not fucking Nazis. We don't fucking get it.
Yeah, no, I'm not a Nazi, I guess. And yeah, because like I'm hearing you say these things and I'm like, I guess if I was fucking broke and I heard this shit every single day from every single person, I guess. Like, fucking sure, I guess, whatever. But like, what the fuck? It is so batshit insane that I just feel like I want to be like, they were brainwashed, but these were just normal people who heard the same thing enough times. And to me, that's not brainwashing. That's just like
religion.
Like, yeah.
Education of any type.
Yeah.
Yep.
So anyway, go ahead.
Membership swelled as the Depression got worse and the small communities broke down under the collapse of the economy. The Nationalsozialistische Deutsche Arbeiterpartei, or National Socialist German Workers' Party. I know, it's a mouthful.
Yeah.
Anyway, it was formed out of the DAP in 1920, and it offered angry solutions for these issues, most of them involving problems caused, quote unquote, Henry, quote unquote, caused those pesky Jews and Marxists.
Mm-hmm.
Adolf, like many people throughout history, was deeply anti-Semitic. Early in his life, his mother had been treated by a Jewish doctor, and when she died, he blamed the doctor. Mama issues.
Jesus Christ.
From that, a hatred grew that was only fanned more by the countless other Germans who also hated Jews, and for their own reasons. He didn't invent this. He didn't invent anti-Semitism. He picked it up in an already popular state of mind, and he seized that opportunity of already anti-Semitic people and already fearful, depressed people to fan the flames of hatred and spewed this vitriol all over the growing numbers of this Nazi party.
Right. Like, he didn't invent the concept, but he definitely
capitalized on it.
Put it on a stage very loudly.
Very much so.
And made a career out of it.
By the time the Great Depression of 1929 hit in Europe, Germany was already so poor and so depressed from the cost of the war that many felt like there was nowhere to go but up. Mm-hmm. And many looked to the person who seemed to have a solid plan on how to make Germany great again. They openly promoted the continuation of the Aryan race and promoted anti-Marxist themes. It was a popular party to be a part of, mm-hmm. and to the already racist majority, it was an easy pick. In 1932, Ilse joined the party with a number of her friends. Mm-hmm. Quote, Koch, who was already well aware of the penurious economic climate, likely felt that the Nazi Party would restore and perhaps even bolster the fraught economy, end quote.
Yeah, I mean, like, they promised beautiful things to a country that had basically a decade of, or like 15 years of fucking starvation. So it was nice and shiny to them. Am I on mute?
No, you're not. I'm just trying to be quiet.
Oh, okay. I panicked. I was like, oh my God.
And it's like, what's your friends are doing? It's the popular thing.
Right.
And that's so fucking depressing because, hey, Kyria, I wonder if we're seeing any similar issues in today's political climate in the U.S.
Absolutely. Yeah, people are so angry.
Never heard of that before. Hatred based on someone's color or religion or race or immigration status.
Right. And at the root of it, it's that everyone's hungry.
Everyone's tired and everyone's hungry.
Everyone's tired and everyone's hungry. And racists give you, like, the loud racists, the ones that stand on the stage and scream about it, give you a person to point at whose fault it is. I'm tired and hungry because of them.
Mm-hmm. And they're tired and hungry because of you.
So, yeah.
Yeah. She was wildly successful in her connections in the Nazi Party. She made friends with the founders of the SS, and through that connection, she met Karl Otto Koch. It was racist love at first sight.
do you hate Jews? I sure do. Great, let's get married. Like, Jesus fucking Christ. I'm sure that relationships were built on more than that, but I also know that, like,
you hate Jews. I do too. Let's go on a date or two.
Right? Like, I know that I'm sure that they were like, oh, I also like fucking scones, you know, like that's a thing we have in common. But I know also that Nazis were so obsessed with only marrying other Germans, specifically Nazis.
I'm also really into birds. Like, do you want to go bird watching someday? But maybe let's not start.
No, I only care about whether or not you like Jews.
Yeah, let's not start with the gassing of humans.
It's so fucking crazy.
Let's get a puppy first. I don't know, like something. It was racist love at first sight, and over the next 3 years, she dated Karl as the popularity of their party grew into major positions of national power. Mm-hmm. As the wave of Nazism took over, she and Karl were positioned perfectly to capitalize their positions and gain power through the movement. Through a series of coups, militarist activism, and flat-out murder in many cases, Adolf, through the arm of the SS and the SA, was able to take over the entire German government and assigned himself as Führer.
Mm-hmm. Bananas.
This definitely pissed some people off, and any good dictator needs a place to keep their hostages in war. Ilse was assigned as a secretary and a guard to Sachsenhausen labor camp in 1936.
And a guard?
Definitely not because her fiancé was the commanding officer at the camp. It's just because she's super talented accountant.
Yeah, like, I mean, I don't think nepotism existed in the Nazi party. Surely not.
No. I'm pretty sure they're the most honest and forthcoming businessmen I've ever seen.
Yeah, and everything was received on merit. I'm positive of it.
We should model our businesses after them. Sure. Trust is a huge part of the Nazi party. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right, let's get into this bitch's fucking crimes.
Okay, so this camp houses political prisoners and was outfitted with barracks, a gas chamber, and a medical experimentation lab. Mm-hmm. Quote, initially, the camp was used to perfect the most efficient and effective execution method for use in death camps. So, like, in and out.
Yeah, how can we do it the fastest, the most people at once?
And the cheapest.
And the cheapest, yeah.
So given this, executions obviously took place at Sachsenhausen, especially at the of Soviet prisoners of war, because who were they angry at? The Soviets.
Right.
During the earlier stages of the camp's existence, the executions were done by placing the prisoners in a small room, often even with music playing, called the Genick-Schussbaracke, and told they were to have their height and weight measured, but instead were shot in the back of the neck through a sliding door located behind the neck.
Jesus.
This was found to be far too time-consuming, so they then trialed a trench. So then they dug a trench, killing either by shooting or by hanging.
Jesus Christ.
While this more easily enabled group executions, it created too much initial panic among the prisoners, making them harder to control.
Well, fucking, yeah, I bet it did. I can't imagine I'd be calm being walked to a trench.
Because then they start scattering, and then you got to chase them all down. It's like a whole thing. And yeah, like sometimes they get away, and you can only create such a big body of, like the pile of bodies before you miss one. It's hard.
Yeah.
You waste so many bullets. It's a whole thing.
I mean, I imagine I would be totally chill if I was in that situation. So.
Oh, yeah. You'd be able to get every shot. No problem. In May of 1936, she and Karl got married.
Let me get some poppers. Let me get a party popper.
So romantic, right? They're working, they're let's be Nazis and hate on and kill people and torture humans and be real big pieces of shit together.
I've got my kazoo.
Woohoo! They're working with the first trials of how to most effectively mass execute people, but obviously you make time for things that matter in the world, like weddings.
Mazel tov. Oh, that's not... Nope, cut that.
What'd you say?
Mazel tov. That can't stay in.
It's staying in.
Oh my god, I'll die.
Oh my god.
So upsetting.
Not Mazel Tov.
Mazel tov.
Unmazzles. Unmazel. That's great. I'm keeping that in.
Bro, if I get a hate message, I'm so upset with you.
Oh my god. Unmazel. All right. We're keeping it in, but just as a disclaimer, to be clear,
No.
not Mazel Tov.
No muzzles.
muzzles
Are toving.
for the union of Carl and Ilse.
For the Kochs.
More like the Pepsis, right?
Ugh. Did they have children? You'll get to it later, I'm sure. The Pepsis.
Yes, they do, and I will get into that later. They really don't come into play, like, at all during her story until much later.
It's just... Yeah, I don't... Like you said earlier, like, doing normal things, like getting married and having children amidst all of this, against all of these fucking atrocities that they're also committing.
Yep. The couple stayed for over a year, and in August of 1937, the Kochs got their new camp assignment. Yay!
New camp.
New camp! After they made the inmates in Sachsenhausen build their own barracks and were just starting to explore all the fun ways it was to execute people, they had to move. Interruptions.
Yeah, like they were just getting their life off the ground, you know?
Yeah.
What an upset to their...
Schedules.
I was going to say American dream. To their German dream.
So annoying.
I'm just trying to have a white picket fence and 2.5 kids here. In this concentration camp where
a white picket fence, 2.5 kids, and a kill count of 37.4 per day.
Exactly. Like, that's all I'm trying to do, and now you want me to move across the country. Like, this is
such disrespect.
Just very inconvenient for me.
They actually saw this as an opportunity, and you will see why.
I'm sure they fucking did.
So, they were sent to a camp called Buchenwald.
Mm-hmm.
This fucking place. Okay, so when it was founded in 1937, in July, the spot was picked for the reason that, like, the history of that spot, in the cultural significance of that spot.
Okay.
For Germans. Mm-hmm. A poet, like, waxed eloquent about the beech trees that grew in the area, and it was precisely for that reason that the Nazis chose the forest to hold their camps. They sent in prisoners to chop down those trees and clear all the land for the construction of the camp, which they also constructed.
Yeah, Buchenwald literally means beechwood.
Yep.
Like, the fuck?
A camp for prisoners built by prisoners. Visit Buchenwald today.
Yeah.
Right. Ilse was now the wife of the commandant, and she was put in charge of all the women guards. So the reason that she was a woman guard in Sachsenhausen and here in Buchenwald is that so for like every... Okay, I want to say it's either like for every 10 prisoners there was one guard, or for every 100 prisoners there was one guard, and I realize that's a huge number, but... For the point of this story, let's say it's 10 to 1, and then for every 10 male guards, there's one woman guard. So, like, women guards are super, super rare, but women prisoners are almost as common.
Right.
As men prisoners. So, there's a much smaller ratio of women guards. So, basically, they're recruiting any women that they can get to actually be in there.
Okay.
Okay, so I realize what I want to do is I kind of want to make a little, like, we hate those stupid Nazis. And then it's like, we hate the Nazis. We hate the Nazis. We hate the Nazis. And, like, play them all over again.
Like, oh my God, like that song.
The clarinet goes doodle, 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 doodle.
That is not the song I was thinking of.
The horn.
Oh, Fortuna.
Oh, yes. Something like that, yeah. Basically, they all start, like, building on top of each other.
Yeah.
We hate hate Nazis.
Exactly.
We hate Nazis. They'll go to hell.
Yes. That's what I was picturing.
Okay. I like it, though.
Every war crime was committed. Anyway.
All right.
War crimes, all of them. Just reading your notes.
War crimes, all of them. That is pretty much the last note that I have on the list, and that's what goes. That's the rest of her piece of shit, slimy, goddamn stupid fucking life. I don't like this woman, and
good. I'm so glad to hear that.
I am a person. Okay, I am a person that like I am gonna sound like fucking hipster for this, but I went to BYU and I would sit and read like true crime books at a very religious school because I found the psychology of like murder very fascinating, and figuring out like kind of what makes a serial killer tick, that kind of shit.
Right.
So I've been fascinated in that for a long time, and I have my limits. Like I never finished the Albert Fish episodes of last podcast.
Those are fucking rough, dude.
Yeah, I got I had to take 3 tries to finish the first episode, and I got halfway through the second one, and I was like, nope. Safe word the fuck out of that, and just never even try to listen to it again.
Like...
Cannot. Check, please. Cannot do that. So I have my limits, and she is a woman that, like, the shit that... We'll get into it.
Let's do it.
There were 22 employed women, but over 500 female guards. So some of these guards included the prisoners being forced to guard other prisoners.
Okay.
It was here, in this little world, that she's truly started coming into her creativity. She had a lab, she had countless humans to work with, and she had the encouragement of her governing body to experiment as much as she wanted to learn more about the human body.
I guess, and I don't, maybe you don't know this, maybe we don't know this, like what moved the switch? She was never a scientist.
No, she wasn't.
Like, never. And like, you will not ever catch me defending a fucking Nazi, but like, some of these people...
But she was immediately put in a position of command where the whole goal was to exterminate Nazis and to, do whatever you can to try and break them, or I wish to exterminate Nazis. That's a self-fulfilling group. To exterminate Jews and to find out, like, the ways that the human body can react to a thing before it completely disintegrates, basically. And...
Right.
That was the from on high goal.
I guess what I'm saying is it's new information to me. I knew that there were people committing atrocities, doing human experiments. Absolutely. Knew that. Got it. What I did not know was that it was people who weren't scientists. Like, Mengele, fucking monster, should not have done anything that he did.
All right, think of it this way.
But was a doctor, and so, like, it makes sense, quote unquote, for the Nazi party or whomever to put a doctor in that position, right?
Yeah.
I did not know, it's new information to me, that you could be a fucking accountant and then suddenly you have a lab and you're doing medical experiments. Because, like, I know that the quote unquote medical experiments that fucking Mengele was doing didn't produce any fucking results, but it's further fucking bafflement because I guess the Nazis knew that she wasn't gonna get results. It didn't matter to them, really. Like,
yeah.
Sorry.
No,
it's new information to me that people who weren't scientists in any way were put in these positions. That is new to me information.
All right, Carrie, think of it this way. Do you remember when the big horrible happened in 2016, and we all of a sudden had a Cheeto Puff in the White House, and he started assigning all of these people that were like, weren't actually doctors, into positions that should very, very clearly have been filled by actual doctors.
Yes. Okay.
They were put in positions of leadership of departments and governmental functions because of their proximity to him and not because of their qualifications for the actual role.
Right.
Do you remember that?
I do.
Do you remember? You do? Okay.
Yes, this is just new. It's new to me information.
And by this time, Ilse already does not think of Jews as human. She already thinks of them as subhuman. She already thinks along the lines of there can be medical benefits to experimenting on humans, and there needs to be an ethnic cleansing because the world is getting too popular and we have a limited food supply and all of this justification bullshit. She's well ingrained into this level of thought.
Right. I get
by
it.
This point.
America grabbed 700 of the quote unquote brightest German minds after World War II, right? Like they got us to the fucking moon. And so, and Russia also got some like crazy intelligent German scientists after this. Like we just were all like, thank you, we're going to take your scientists now. And yet still Germany has this just like totally unqualified person in a lab doing crazy shit. Like it's
and it's not
crazy.
Just one.
Right, exactly. Like this is not the.
It's not just one unqualified person in one lab. It's dozens of unqualified people it's hundreds of unqualified people in dozens of labs doing experimentation on hundreds and thousands of prisoners in each of these camps. And there are dozens and dozens of these camps. And in these camps, there are subcamps that have their own forms of separated torture. And this is one thing that happens to these people every fucking day.
Yeah.
Anyway. So it's truly horrendous that during the next decade, the most devastating and truly abominable crimes against humans took place. But what is also hard to wrap my head around is the fact that these experiments worked in some cases. Trial and error is unfortunately and undoubtedly a solid part of the scientific process. And for all of the horrors that those experiments produced, the world of medicine and science was pushed forward by leaps and bounds, and the world of medicine is actually better for it.
I mean, there's a ton you can learn.
Which I hate saying, it causes me to gag, but it's also true.
There's a ton you can learn and a ton of progress you can make when you take your humanity out of the equation.
Yeah.
And, like, sure, things advanced, but I don't know, man. Like, I guess I would be willing for things to have... I would absolutely be willing for things to have advanced slower.
Yeah.
And for people to have not sold out their fucking humanity.
Yep.
So, let's talk about her goddamn war crimes, because...
It's angers, I know. This wasn't just like a college campus sized camp. It was a massive, massive organization with minimal protection from the elements for anyone that wasn't the SS.
Right. Camps are like town and like city sized, right? Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
There were a total of 136 subcamps associated within Buchenwald, with the main campus being meant to house 8,000 prisoners.
Wow. Okay.
As these enslaved people worked, they were instructed to build a riding track for Mrs. Koch. So she started riding in the indoor track before it was even finished and was seen riding in time with the beat of the prisoner working pattern.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. And do you know how they got the funds to actually build that arena?
Pockets of prisoners when they were brought in.
Money taken from the prisoners. It was about 250,000 Reichsmarks, which is about $62,500.
Wow.
Which is a lot of money. So it funded the construction cost of this sports arena that was built for the Kochs.
Okay.
She was a large redhead, and she and Carl lived in a veritable palace at that camp. She walked around with a riding crop and would beat the prisoners with it forcing them to perform exhausting activities for her own amusement. At some point, she had 3 children with Karl, a boy and 2 girls, the second of whom died in infancy. While the most common cause of death in these prisoners by far was starvation and being literally worked to death.
Right.
Hangings and shootings did take place on a regular basis, and for absolutely no reason other than the guard felt like it.
Jesus.
But some prisoners were used for more nefarious purposes.
Mm-hmm.
By this time, prisoners were pouring in from other camps and around Europe. All the boxes of less desirables are checked. Aryan political prisoners, Jews, Romani, gays, atheists, old grandmas, little kids, all of it.
Mm-hmm.
One camp was even specifically only for women for a number of years, and then they broke up their camp in order to send the female prisoners to other camps.
Mm-hmm.
Now, these women left the frying pan and went right into the fire when arriving at their new camps. You see, what is the thing that so many men feel that they are entitled to and has inspired one of the oldest and most stigmatized careers in the entire world?
Sex. I'm deeply upsetted.
So a number of concentration camps decided they wanted brothels inside, as they had this thought that if you could let the prisoners have some sex, they'd work harder. It was an incentivizing of sorts for the men, and women who were chosen for the positions of sex slaves were promised better living conditions than the ones that they were already in. And while this is a horrible, horrible fucking trade-off, there also wasn't much of a choice. You were chosen and you went. Like, you didn't get to say no.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I hold no ill will towards anybody who did what they needed to do to survive another hour in these fucking places. I am gobsmacked by how people in positions of power will always, regardless, it does not matter how low they subjugate groups of people, they will still find a way to pit those subjugated groups against each other. These are literal slaves that you are just holding until you decide to kill them. And you still find a way to pit them against each other. Like, it's just the mind reels.
Yeah.
Go ahead. These brothels.
As with many oppressed groups in the world and throughout history, the prisoners in camp were no exception to the crab pot theory. When crabs are all trapped in a pot, one crab could easily escape. But as it attempts to escape the pot, its efforts will be immediately undermined by others, ensuring the group's collective demise.
Right.
It's that thought of, if I can't have it, neither can you.
Right. Or just in theory, everybody's trying their best and scrabbling to, again, stay alive one more hour.
Yeah.
One more
day. The jealousy is like for survival only. It's not because they're a selfish person. It's because
you have a better chance of living till tomorrow if you get this than I do. Like, your chances of survival until tomorrow are better than mine.
And I can't let that happen.
Right.
I need us to be on an even playing field.
Mm-hmm.
Women chosen for these positions didn't have a choice in the matter, but it didn't make a difference to the fellow prisoners. By one account, a woman was chosen in front of all of her fellow prisoners, and they were so angry that she would have better living conditions that they beat the shit out of her. Not only that, there were rules to who could go into these brothels. Obviously, Jewish men were not allowed in, but guards could enter, and so could the leaders of the camp.
Right.
We've been talking a lot about the things that definitely happened at the camps. Mm-hmm. One of the big issues with researching Ilse and much of the goings-on in the concentration camps is that almost none of this is actually documented with, like, names attached or any sort of trackable paperwork.
Right.
So we've covered the definitely did happen parts, but now we're going to go into the parts that, like, 1 or 2 sources say happened, but either weren't necessarily proven or I couldn't really get multiple sources for this stuff, but, like...
Yeah.
Okay, trigger warning.
I'm just going to say up top.
Oof.
I'm going to...
up middle?
Just believe she did it. Just whatever you say, I believe she did it. I don't care. Like, she can't defend herself, and she's already a horrible person. So if she didn't do it, somebody else did next to her, and she knew about it. So,
Yep.
but yes, trigger warning, this shit gets very bad. It's very bad. Have a drink, get a blinky.
According to Britannica and History.com, Ilse would throw orgies in her home for herself and Karl and the other SS officers. She would force prisoners to have sex with her. By all accounts, she was wildly entertained by her freedoms around camp and took the fullest liberties with her position of power. In these days of freedom and violent fantasies coming to life, Ilse earned a number of nicknames: the Red Witch of Buchenwald, the Bitch of Buchenwald, and the Beast of Buchenwald. But perhaps the thing she is most famous for, and the thing that has brought no end of controversy in the story of Ilse Koch, is the obsession with skin.
Specifically, like, tattooed, right?
Yes.
Okay. Ugh.
In November of 1939, a doctor arrived at Buchenwald. His name was Dr. Erich Wagner, and he had some research to do. At the time, he was working on his dissertation project, quote, a contribution to the tattoo question. In this research, he wanted to address things like covering, quote, the history of tattoos, pain and complications, techniques, forced tattoos, tattoos in society, tattoos in profession, tattoos in age, tattoos in criminality, the motive for tattoos, psychology of tattoos, theatrical and freak tattoos, school-time tattoos, jail tattoos, military and French Foreign Legion tattoos, non-criminal tattoos, methods and pictures, etc., etc., etc. Just so much.
Jesus Christ. It's obsessed with fucking tattoos.
Yes, he wanted to know everything that there was to know and get basically a social research done on the type of people that get tattoos and their motivations for it. I'm guessing to kind of push some sort of social commentary on, like, if you have a tattoo, you're this fucked up person that has a higher level of criminality, and we can just predict that you're going to be a bad person. I'm guessing that's where he was trying to go with it.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, like, if connections between tattoo and criminality and stuff like that, like, absolutely, definitely.
I don't want to speculate here, but, like, I'm pretty sure that's where he was going with it.
Yeah.
One witness testified later, quote, that they had noticed that the inmates SS Dr. Wagner studied for his doctoral thesis were routinely, quote, selected according to the magnificence of their tattoo markings and sent to the hospital. Soon afterward, the finest skin specimens would appear in the pathology section where they were prepared and for years exhibited to SS visitors as particular treasures. Wagner used 800 inmates with tattoos as the basis for his study on the background, the motivation, and meaning of tattoos, and in research to try to determine the connection between tattoos and criminality.
Jesus Christ.
Yep. And that stigma obviously still exists everywhere today.
Right.
I mean, we're trying to fight it, but, like, it exists everywhere. And it's one of those, like, self-fulfilling prophecies, because if you have a tattoo, you're more likely to be profiled as a person that would, quote unquote, would have a tattoo.
Yeah. Jesus.
It's skewed from the start. It doesn't make any sense.
But then weren't there SS officers got tattoos?
Yep.
That's, like, a notable thing that, like, Mengele did not get a tattoo.
Yep. But he was studying tattoos. I'll get there. I promise.
Okay. Decorative tattoos, not signifying tattoos. Like, whatever. That's what it
In the appendix of his book is an example of the questionnaire that inmates who were part of Wagner's tattoo study were required to fill out. Aside from name, date, and city of birth, there were questions about education levels, race, whether they were a Jew, Aryan, Gypsy, etc., citizenship, German, Pole, Czech, whatever, criminal background, as well as questions about tattoos. How many? Where were they on the body? One color or multicolor? Applied with a template or freehand? Was it a primitive one? Was it an artistic one? When did the subject get the tattoo? In the military service, or while in school, or voluntarily, or were they drunk or sober? Who did the tattoo? Was it?
Give me a biography about your tattoos.
Basically.
Right. That's crazy.
It also contained charts showing age and year statistics for different tattooed prisoners. Ilse loved this research. She had a deep and abiding interest in skin, and I have no idea where it came from. Nobody has any sort of notable story about her and skin when she grew up. But she was, like, obsessed with this shit. There are few records that actually tie these two people together, but the known connection between the two was from being seen and recalled as working together. When a tattooed prisoner would come into the camp, they would be sent to the good doctor for inspection and evaluation. If it was deemed an interesting enough tattoo, Ilse's husband, Carl, would order the prisoner to be killed. The body would then be returned, and he and Ilse would skin the tattoo and further treat the skin, preserving those tattoos as displays.
What the fuck? Okay. Like, if you want the fucking artwork, go get the artwork. Like, go get a painting. Like, I know.
So depressing, right?
Yeah.
In 1941, while this dissertation was being finished and presented, Carl was transferred to a different camp. That was largely due to an investigation based on allegations of his improper conduct at Buchenwald, which included corruption, fraud, embezzlement, drunkenness, sexual offenses, and a murder.
Holy shit.
Koch commanded the Majdanek camp for only 1 year, and then he was relieved from his duties there after 86 Soviet POWs escaped from that camp in August of 1942. Koch was then charged with criminal negligence and transferred to Berlin, where he worked at the SS personnel main office as a liaison between the SS and the German post office. We're going to sit you at a desk, make you not in charge of anything or anyone.
And keep a fucking eye on you.
Can't rape anybody in this office, so no. And you can't fuck anything up here. We can just cut your lines of communication off, because what's fuck the post office? It's going to be broken anyway.
And you can't do a murder here, probably.
Right. Another SS officer and a prince of some part of Germany was studying death records one day, and he found a familiar name. A doctor that he had seen years ago who had successfully treated him in the past had been killed at Buchenwald as a quote-unquote political prisoner.
Okay.
This seemed odd to Prince Josias as so he investigated further. As it turned out, Carl caught syphilis, and he had Dr. Walter Kramer treating him for it. And after he got better, he feared that Kramer would actually let it slip, so Carl had him killed.
What? Sorry. It's just... That is bananas.
Yeah. This is like movie shit. It's crazy.
Yeah, so obviously that's not okay, because that's just... Walter Kramer is a German, like an Aryan?
No, he was a prisoner of war. And I think he was a German, yes.
Oh, okay. Okay.
But I would imagine he was Jewish.
Oh, well then I guess
and so he treated Carl anyway, because he's a doctor.
Right.
And so he helped him, treat his syphilis, but then Carl was like, oh fuck, what if he says anything to anyone?
Yeah. No, I hear that. I got that part. I got. The part I don't get is why someone cared, because by all accounts, nobody thought of these Jewish people as humans. So
but Prince Josias wasn't. Yeah, that's fair. Yes, because this Prince Josias was actually another SS officer, so he was kind of trained in the same thing. But then he kind of had that moment of like, wait a minute, I have a past with this guy. I actually do know he's a human and he's nice or whatever, like capable of kindness, and he's a good doctor.
Sure.
That was wrong. They have that moment of tiny little bit of clarity, the tiny bit of, wait, we can't justify this one. This was actually a really good guy. Okay. It was like he just killed the exact right person for someone to finally pay attention to what he was doing.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry. It just caught me by guard. I was like, I don't understand why they cared. Like, I'm glad somebody cared and like
right.
dealt with this, but it's surprising, I guess.
Ilse was still in Buchenwald. Carl had left and was dealing with his own shit. So she had women to abuse and prisoners to skin. And she was still living in the commandant's palace, so Prince Josias kept digging. The more he dug, the more he learned of the extent of the Koch's embezzlement from the prisoners and the extensive kill orders from the very top of command.
Wow.
He put the entire camp under investigation. This is a place that held over 20,000 prisoners and had 136 subcamps to which they sent people for free labor. This is a huge investigation.
Yeah. That's what? The whole camp?
The entire camp, everything about the camp, every penny, every record, everything.
Okay, and by this time, I just want to get back to timeline. Carl is already at the other.
Yeah, he's suspicious. And Prince Josias...
And he's in the... Right, he's suspicious and he's already at the, like, desk job.
Yeah, because he's already been transferred because of this other shit that he's got. Mm-hmm. But, like, this is a separate thing. This is another, like, one day after Carl is already sitting in his office, we pan over to Josias, who's reading records. And he goes, oh, this is odd.
And Ilse has been at Buchenwald this whole time.
She has been at Buchenwald.
Okay.
The supreme irony of this moment should not go unnoticed. The people that are literally famous for the supremely horrible mistreatment and murder of millions of innocent people, they thought that Carl was the one going overboard here.
Sure.
That's just too much. Nope, we're done.
Too much.
Too much. This seemed to be an outlier of horrible mistreatment in a military group known for horrible mistreatments. In late August 1943, Ilse and Carl Koch were arrested. The charges comprised private enrichment, embezzlement, and the murder of prisoners to prevent them from giving testimony.
That's the part, that's what I was going to say, is it doesn't feel like the SS or the Nazi Party or whatever. It doesn't feel like they stepped in really because they were just like, okay, good. Like, thank God he did a murder because now we can also pinch him for all of these other things where he's embezzling himself and, like, enriching himself on the backs of things that should be, like, Nazi things.
Yeah, he murdered exactly the wrong person, and they caught everything because of that one person.
Right.
And it was literally just because I got syphilis, and I'm afraid that you're going to say something.
Yeah. And, like...
And that's because he was fucking someone.
That leads me... Did he get syphilis? Yeah, he got syphilis from someone else, then. Yeah.
Yeah.
It
was a whole thing, yeah. They're finally arrested. It's private enrichment, embezzlement, and the murder of prisoners to prevent them from giving testimony. And while they had pretty solid evidence of the evil doings of Carl, they had nothing on Ilse. She was acquitted a year later.
Mm-hmm.
Carl was found guilty, and on April 5th, 1945, that piece of shit was executed by the firing squad in the court of the very camp he had once terrorized with his command. It was 1 week before the American troops arrived to liberate the camp.
Oh, wow. Bye.
Bye, bitch.
Bye, Carl.
When Germany officially lost the war, once again, they were forced to cut down heavily on their military. It was a necessity because they clearly couldn't be trusted with their own military forces. In return, the United States promised that Germany would become a protectorate of the U.S. We now have a lot of bases in Germany because of that promise of protection. Same kind of thing in Japan. When they surrendered, we promised we would protect them because we weren't allowing them to have a military anymore. So now we
beat the shit out of you, but now we'll protect you. But you can't have any bases in our country, but we'll put a bunch in yours. Hee hee.
And you can't have a military of your own.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they do now, right? Like,
I think the ones that they have are like local polices or like, I don't know. I still think it's very highly regulated.
Oh, really? Interesting.
But here's the thing. Because these countries didn't have militaries anymore, the money in those coffers, in their coffers that they build every year, can go instead towards building infrastructure that actually works. Mm-hmm. So education, it's funded well and can be competitive, and scientific innovation has the funding to actually take off. These are now two very technologically advanced nations, very rich nations, and it's because they didn't have to spend that money on the army. Our nation spends so much money on military, and not only does it take away from the ability for us to actually implement effective public transportation systems, in-state universal health care, make focus on education and STEM, we're increasing the budget every year for more and more bases internationally as a way to like bolster it up. But we're doing exactly what Germany was doing before World War One, which is we're kind of just going to take over this land a little bit and we're going to have bases wherever we want. Okay?
Right.
Okay? Okay?
Okay. Nobody say anything.
Yep. Smile. Everybody's happy.
Everybody smile.
Everybody's fine. Everything is not fine. Back to Ilse. So Ilse's troubles were absolutely not over. After she was acquitted, she went to live with her family until she was arrested again by the Americans on June 30th, 1945.
Okay.
So like 2.5 months after her husband died.
Yeah.
In 1947, she and 30 other officers were arraigned in the military court held in Dachau. She was charged with participating in a criminal plan for aiding, abetting, and participating in the murders of Buchenwald. Details and testimony included abusing prisoners, ordering those with interesting tattoos to be killed and their skin to be turned into artifacts such as lampshades, book covers, gloves, and so on. Despite the testimony of former prisoners who were forced to make such grisly objects, prosecutors could not conclusively prove her involvement in committing such crimes. She announced in court that she was 8 months pregnant. Apparently, a fellow prisoner had knocked her up.
Jesus.
Ilse got around.
All right. She gets around.
Even in prison.
Yeah, I guess.
She was found guilty and sentenced to life. She was sent to Landsberg and gave birth in prison. There she sat, and there she rotted for what she thought would be the rest of her life.
Okay.
But Americans had some big issues, and the government was dealing with building international relationships, but instead, faith had gone down, and they were facing a lot of criticism about the overly harsh punishments of war criminals. So, to the objection of a lot of people, including the vast public, Ilse was released based on time served, on the grounds that, quote, there was no convincing evidence that she had selected inmates for extermination in order to secure tattooed skins, or that she possessed any articles made of human skin.
Jesus.
Quote, there was absolutely no evidence in the trial transcript other than she was a rather loathsome creature that would support the death sentence. I suppose I received more abuse for that than anything else I did in Germany. Some reporter had called her the Bitch of Buchenwald, had written that she had lampshades made of human skin in her house, and that it was introduced in court, where it was absolutely proven that the lampshades were made of goat skin. In addition to that, her crimes were primarily against the German people. They were not war crimes against American or Allied prisoners. Later, she was tried by a German court for her crimes and sentenced to life imprisonment, but they had clear jurisdiction. We did not.
Jesus Christ.
We just, we don't feel like doing this anymore. We just...
Like, primarily against German people. No. Primarily against Jewish and Romani people and prisoners of war. Like, I don't care if they were from Germany. Like, this was a racially motivated thing. She committed racially motivated crimes. What the fuck? Okay.
Dr. Gustav Wegener explained. One day, at about the same time in 1941, the Camp Commandant Koch and SS Dr. Mueller appeared at my work command in the infirmary. At that time, a lampshade made of tanned, tattooed human skin was being prepared for Koch. Koch and Mueller chose among the available tanned parchment-thin human skins the ones with suitable tattoos for the lampshade. From the conversation between the two, it became clear that the previously chosen motifs had not pleased Ilse. The lampshade was then completed and handed over to Koch. Dr. Hans Mueller, later SS physician in Obersalzberg, was a pathologist in Buchenwald from March 1941 to 1942. The time period can be defined more precisely through Ackermann's statement. He delivered the lamp as he testified in 1950 in court. The lamp foot was made from a human foot and shin bone. On the shade...
Sorry.
On the shade, one saw tattoos and even nipples. On the occasion of the birthday party of Koch, August of 1941, he was tasked by the camp doctor, Hoven, to bring the lamp to Koch's villa. This he did. One of the party guests told him later that the presentation of the lamp had been a huge success. The lamp immediately disappeared after the SS leadership learned about it. Ilse Koch could not be accused of making the lampshade.
Right. And I just want to clarify for everyone listening that those were chunks of statements made from witnesses under oath. That was a doctor who was a political prisoner and worked in the infirmary, and then another political prisoner and the secretary of the camp doctor, Hoven. So,
yeah. This was years' worth of testimony being gathered.
So there were statements made under oath.
Yeah.
There were statements made under oath. Unlike what that man said.
Either way, she was released in 1949, and according to one article, she was rearrested by the West German government the same fucking day.
Wow.
The hearing opened on 27 November 1950 before the district court at Augsburg and lasted 7 weeks, during which 250 witnesses were heard, including 50 for the defense.
Holy shit.
Koch collapsed and had to be carried from the court in late December 1950, and then again on January 1951.
It's on my birthday. It's on my birthday.
Yeah.
She collapsed again on 11 January 1951.
Yep.
It was me. I caused her to collapse in court. You're welcome.
Your pre-parents, pre-birth.
Mm-hmm.
I like it.
My grandmother might have been alive. Not sure.
At least 4 witnesses for the prosecution testified that they had seen Koch choose tattooed prisoners who were then killed, or had seen or been involved in the process of making the human skin lampshades from tattooed skin. However, this charge was dropped from the prosecution when they could not prove the lampshades or any other items were actually made from human skin.
Okay.
The defense claimed that this was a violation of double jeopardy, as she had already been charged in 1944 and in 1947. But in 44 trial, Koch had only been charged with receiving, while in 1947, she had been accused of crimes against foreigners after September 1, 1939, and not with crimes against humanity, of which Germans and Austrians had been defendants both before and after that date.
Mm-hmm.
She was convicted of the charges of incitement to murder, incitement to attempted murder, and incitement to the crime of committing grievous bodily harm, and on 16 January 1951, she was sentenced to life imprisonment and permanent forfeiture of civil rights.
Jesus.
She appealed the sentence, but it was dismissed.
Mm-hmm.
She put forward a bunch of petitions for a pardon, and they were rejected.
Mm-hmm.
She was going to spend the rest of her life rotting. Her oldest son killed himself because he couldn't live with the shame of the crimes of his parents. The son she had in prison eventually found out that his mother was the famous butcher widow of Lohr and began to visit her in prison. 2 years after that, Ilse hanged herself.
Jesus.
She had become convinced that the concentration camp survivors were going to come abuse her in her cell.
Well, that'll fucking do it.
Must have been all those memories of the horrible abuses she experienced during the war.
Yeah,
poor Ilse.
of the things that you did to these people.
Poor innocent Ilse, minding her own prisoner business and having guards just come and torment and beat and rape and experiment on her. Poor Ilse. She was 60 when she finally rid the world of her existence, and though her surviving son tried to turn the public opinion of Ilse around, it was based on barely 2 years of knowing about her himself, long after she had committed those atrocities. And as we well know, and rightly so, public opinion has not changed.
Mm-mm.
This woman was a piece of shit because she could be, because she was given the space to be so.
Mm-hmm. She was given power. Wow.
She was given that like assistant manager position of power, and then she like did the really like squirrely kind of way of like, all right, but the manager is my boyfriend, so he gets to do whatever I say.
Yeah, exactly. Oh,
Kill that boy. Kill that man. Kill that woman.
1967.
I want to make a lampshade out of her tattoo. Lampshade out of your skin.
What a fucking monster. I wonder if her son is still alive.
I don't know. He'd be old. He'd be pretty old.
Yeah.
And he wouldn't have the same last name because it was... I mean, maybe.
Ooh, I'll send it to you.
But seriously, fuck this guy.
I found a link. I'll send it to you. Maybe we can put it on the like website page if anybody wants to read it, because I found a link to like an archived the thing. I don't know if it's exactly what he wrote, but it's at least an article about what he wrote.
What does it say?
I mean, it's very long.
Oh.
It's a New York Times archive.
Gotcha.
So,
okay.
So it's long. Ugh. She was no innocent... This is the last paragraph, though. She was no innocent angel, he added. She was a hussy who rode horseback in sexy underwear in front of the prisoners and then noted down for punishment the number of those who looked at her. She lay around in her garden in front of prisoners, simply primitive, but she had nothing to do with lampshade business, and she did not deserve such a draconic punishment. She was a victim of horror stories.
Okay, so she was a piece of shit and she did a lot of shit. Okay, so she did. You're right, she did. Did she ride around in her frilly underpants with a whip on her horse on a regular basis? Yes. Did she keep track of those who got distracted by her
spectacle?
Yes.
She did. She did do that.
Yes, she did. She kept track of them. And then did she beat them up if they did actually take notice of this spectacle that she was causing? Yes, she did. But she did not make a lampshade out of your skin. So she shouldn't be in prison.
Well, you can't prove she didn't, so I'm going to say she did. Bye. Oh my God, what a terrible person. I enjoy doing episodes about Nazis because I get to just curse about people for like 2 hours. So, yeah.
I miss the world when we didn't have book burnings and we didn't have Nazis around. Like, that's the America I want to see again. But that's never been America.
Yeah. That was definitely...
There have always been those types of people, and they have always been here and elsewhere. White people, for some reason, think they're just the bee's fucking knees, and that they can go and colonize any other place that they deem too primitive for pleasurable life. And fuck you guys, and don't be a Nazi, guys. Just don't be a Nazi.
Definitely.
It's not hard.
Definitely cut that out if you
oh yeah,
can
no,
help it.
I'm going to.
No, I meant like no, I was saying like if you can help it, definitely cut out being a Nazi. Like don't do it.
Okay.
Cut it out.
Thanks, Mr. Coulier.
You got it. Anywho.
That's what I got. That's Ilse. Fuck her. Don't be a Nazi.
Thank you for joining us for Ilse. We hope that you raged right along with us. Drink some water. I don't know.
Yes. We should all be doing that.
I have no other advice for you besides, drink water and try your best.
Be nice to yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, kids.
I feel like this is an appropriate level of excitement I need to have after that type of episode. I'm just so drained.
Yeah, I'm going to go have some dinner and just relax.
Oh yeah. I'm doing a relaxing on the couch. Anyway, thank you guys for listening. We really appreciate it. If you can, we're actually kind of trying to grow this and make it better.
Yeah.
We don't make any bones about it sounding professional in any way, shape, or form because we both do this from home and we do it over Zoom and all of that. But if you can, if you like us, just, go review us like on iTunes, Spotify, wherever.
Yeah.
We are...
Give us a heart. Follow us. I don't know. Share our posts when you see them on social media.
Absolutely. Send them to your friends. Tell your mom about them. Anyway, thank you so much for listening. We appreciate it. Have a good night.
Bye.
Bye.